You all, we're going to start the meeting in just a minute. Thank you so much to our department heads and our fire department who went down to the dining room and got some more chairs. We don't want anybody to be standing out in the lobby there because you're probably not going to be able to hear anything that's going on. I would invite you to come in. We have front row seats for you. I asked for their permission. We have 2 exits and lots of open space. Would y'all ask that at the beginning of the meeting? Would you ask that at the beginning of the meeting?
Yeah, they won't let me.
Sure, I guess.
Make them stand out.
There are plenty of seats up here, folks. I'd encourage you to come forward so you can see the presentations and hear the conversation. Okay, I'm going to call to order this January 2nd, 2018 meeting of the Gallatin City Council. I'm going to begin this meeting by wishing everyone a Happy New Year. I hope that everyone had a healthy, happy, full of love holiday season, and on behalf of the City Council and the employees of the City of Gallatin, we all want to wish our citizens of Gallatin a happy, healthy, and prosperous New Year. I hope it's that way for everyone. It's certainly a time of a lot of change for all of us in Middle Tennessee, and Gallatin is no exception. And we're all going to be working together very hard in the coming years, and at the start of a new year is a great time to really focus that perspective and to commit again, to commit anew to working with each other and working in a positive manner with the greater good of our city and its future always in focus. I know that that's what we're here for, and I know that's what the citizens of Gallatin want. And so I'm just excited to get started again and want to extend those wishes to each of you. Now we're going to begin the meeting, as we do each meeting, with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Alexander is going to offer our prayer, and then the pledge will be led by Councilman Fennell. Would you stand with me, please?
Let every heart pray. Eternal gracious God, once again, you have allowed us to come into a brand new year. We thank you, dear Lord, for all the blessings that bestowed upon us in 2017. Now, Lord, we're looking forward to 2018. We pray, oh God, that everything we say and everything we do this evening will be pleasing in your sight. Bless those that are here, those who may be on the sound of my voice, wherever they may be. In the mighty and precious name of Jesus we pray, and every heart said,
Amen.
Place flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Kittrell, if you would call the roll for us, please.
Vice Mayor Overton,
Present.
Mr. Alexander,
Present.
Mr. Camp,
Present.
Mr. Fennell,
Here.
Mr. Hayes, Ms. Love, Mr. Mayberry.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Kittrell. Before you have the minutes from the November 7th, 2017 City Council meeting. Okay, we have a motion by Vice Mayor Overton, a second by Councilman Overton. Are there any additions or corrections or changes? Councilwoman Love says it looks great, and so this council's probably in agreement. Would all in favor of approving the minutes please say aye? Opposed, please say no. The minutes are approved. We now come to that time of the meeting where we have public recognition on agenda-related items. Also do have some recognition of our Miss Gallatin winners. Should we do that before we do public recognition? I would like to ask at this time that Samantha Havenstrite, our new Miss Gallatin, our Miss Iris Gallatin team, Lindsay Fletcher, and the local Gallatin pageant director to come forward. And I'm going to ask the council to move forward and have their photo made with them. And I asked Mr. Henschel to take that picture for us. I actually emceed the Miss Gallatin pageant, and so I got to meet Miss Samantha that evening, but I haven't met Lindsay. But these ladies are going to be representing the city of Gallatin in the coming year. I know they must have done a fabulous, well, I know Samantha did a fabulous job in the pageant because I witnessed it, but I know Lindsay must have as well. Also want to really commend Holly Harris Alexander. She's local pageant director. You all know her. She's from Gallatin, and she actually teaches in Murfreesboro, but stays committed to the city and puts on an amazing pageant. It's not the pageants that I've been exposed to at a local level in years past. It is actually quite the production. And so between Tin Pin and Holly and her volunteer, I guess, assistants, it is really an amazing thing for Gallatin. And so now Samantha will go on. She'll compete at Miss Tennessee. And our local Miss Gallatin pageant, for those of you who don't know, is part of the Miss America organization. It is a scholarship pageant, and we are delighted to have great representation of our city of Gallatin. This is our second Miss Gallatin, and our first Miss Gallatin certainly represented us well for a year. We congratulate her and thank her, and now we're on to the 2018 ladies. So, Council, if you would move forward with me for just a minute, we'll get a quick picture. Did you want to say anything, Holly?
I would love to. I'm grateful to be here tonight in front of the City Council. I grew up here pretty much, and y'all have known me since I was basically born through my dad and his service to the city. And I had opportunity to have this pageant in different places, but Gallatin was where my heart is, and this is home. So eventually we'll get back here for good. But I'm grateful to have these amazing representatives for Gallatin. And I know that they will do good on the state level, and they're here to be ambassadors for the city. And if y'all didn't know, Mr. Fennell's granddaughter is our Iris Princess, and she also goes to the state Miss Tennessee pageant and represents us as well. She just couldn't be here tonight. So, but just thank y'all for having us tonight.
Audience, thank you for indulging us that recognition. We want them to have a good crowd, so thank you for recognizing them. Also, do want to mention two important birthdays coming up. Debbie Johnson, our finance director, has a birthday tomorrow. And Rachel, did I say finance director? I meant human resources director. Our finance director has one next Tuesday, Miss Rachel Nichols. So they have birthdays coming up, and be sure and wish them happy birthday on the appropriate day. Now we will go to public recognition on agenda-related items. This is the time of the meeting where people who have items of interest on the agenda may come forward and speak to those items. I will remind you there are two public hearings tonight. And if your concerns are about either of those, one is public hearing on the property located at 599 West Eastland, and the other is on Kensington Downs. So if you wish to speak on either of those items, I would encourage you to wait to those public hearings. Otherwise, now would be the time for you to come forward and address your concerns in front of this council. Public hearing on agenda-related items is now open.
Mayor, one thing, you let everybody know that
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. If there happens to be anyone here with concerns about the Langley Hall development, that was pulled from the agenda. Well, it's not on the agenda, but there was, after I think first reading, there was some indication that second reading would be tonight, and it's not going to be. So that is not on the agenda this evening. I also wanted to ask this council if they're okay with moving item 9, which is Avery Park, up to after the public hearings. I know there are a lot of people here about that. There's also a lot of people here for item number 21, or there could be people here for 21, which is Langford Farms, but the developer will not be here until later in the meeting, and so we want to leave it at 21, and I apologize for that, for anyone who may be here for that. We will try to move swiftly through all of the agenda items, but giving our due attention. Thank you, Vice Mayor Overton.
Mayor, fellow council members, thank you. My name is Mike Stanton. I represent Avery Park. I just wanted to briefly, at this stage, state that at the last meeting, we were requested to put together a community meeting, and I just wanted, for the record and for everybody here, to know that we've now scheduled that. It's January the 11th. That's a Thursday at the Gallatin Hampton Inn at the Craig Font Room. They do ask that we make the comment that everyone that's going to come park in the rear. We're going to do, having done these, I call them information meetings because that's really what it's about. It's about a time of gathering information and then sharing information. In this meeting, just so everybody will understand the context of how we do it, we'll be setting up stations. So it's from 5 to 7, and you can come anytime during that time. So what we found over a course of the many years of doing these, not everybody can make it at 5. And if they come at 6, they're going to miss a lot of the presentation. So what we've done is we'll set up stations. One station may be about master planning, one may be about drainage, one may be about traffic and the roundabout, but we'll have stations. So if you don't want to go to all the stations, but there's one particular item that you're more focused on, you can go directly to that station. So we found that it flows better, it gets people the opportunity to come within a specified time, but gets them the ability to come and still gather all the information instead of missing part of it. So I just wanted to say that on the front end in case there's people, I know there's people here tonight that's going to be talking about it, but this is going to be a time that we can get kind of individual and one-on-one attention. So just wanted to let you guys know that first off, and I'll be back on the agenda item. I do have a presentation if we need to do it. I'll be prepared to do that at the agenda item if we need to. Thank you.
Thank you. Public recognition, anyone else wishing to speak, now would be the time to come forward and do so.
Elizabeth Benarchik, 1281 Cromwell Court, District 5. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. I just want to speak briefly on the 2 items for the fire department that will have their second reading tonight. I live in District 5, as I mentioned, about a half mile from where the new station will go, where the land is purchased. And I just want to reach out to all of you who haven't, who have questions about that or haven't quite made up your mind yet. It is a long haul from Station 1 all the way down South Water, responding to an emergency, even to the area where Station 5 is. Any of the residents that live beyond that, it's even further. If any of you have ever had the unfortunate experience of having to dial 911 in an emergency situation, you know how long every second that you're waiting feels like just hours. A few years ago, my husband and I had to call 911. And if you haven't, I can tell you it's one of the hardest things in an emergency situation. As some of you know, my daughter's foot was amputated. And luckily, my husband and I have medical skills that we were able to apply a tourniquet. She was 2 years old at the time and weighed approximately 30 pounds. So you can imagine if we did not have the medical skills that we did as trained first responders, how quickly she would have bled out and died. Because we also knew where the ambulance was coming from, my husband was able to put my daughter in the back of his patrol car and meet the ambulance on Airport Road where they were coming from. We were lucky, and I often think about other residents that live down there because we knew how long it was going to take for first responders to get to us. Unfortunately, it makes, I think about people who live in that area who don't have medical skills. That would have been a death. And the comments have been made about people, we've just been lucky. You know, we're behind in the fire department. We know that. There's a lot of things we need to catch up with. You guys all know that. And the comments have been made that we've been lucky. Well, reality of it is we haven't been lucky. As a fire department, we haven't been lucky. We have, as a city, have been lucky that the people who live down there, when incidents have happened, people have died because we've been behind. We don't know all those. You can't judge when you go to an emergency situation a lot of times if this person would have lived if we had been closer. But I do feel like if you were to come at Station 1 and ride out on a fire engine to see just how long it takes to get down to that area, the numbers all show, I know you guys have had the reports before, that the numbers show how many calls we respond to down there, how long it takes. And so I just ask that tonight when you guys go ahead and vote that you think about if you lived down there, like I do, and people who live even further out, down Lock 4 and down South Water more towards the bridge. Just think about them calling 911, because that's who we owe it to. We owe it to all of our citizens, and so I ask that tonight when you vote for those, that you just vote to keep this project moving forward with Station 5, which it should have been done years ago. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak under public recognition? Now would be your time. And I would remind you to please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less.
Hello, my name is Robin Good, and I'm a resident of the Douglas Bend Peninsula for about the last 2 decades, about 22, 23 years. There's a group of us here tonight. We're wearing green ribbons. We are in opposition to Avery Park. I'm sure you've been contacted by some. What we're not happy with is the fact that the lot sizes are 0.16 of an acre. It's not consistent. It's not consistent with the neighborhood. It's not consistent with the residents who have spent decades in that area. We're not happy with it. Now, instead of belaboring all the things that we're unhappy with, I have a question for you all. I'm not really sure how we've gotten to this point. We're residents of the county. The land that Avery Park, the land that will possibly be developed into Avery Park, is county land, correct?
Typically,
Anyone?
this is a time where you address the council
Okay.
with your concerns.
All right.
We don't typically answer questions.
You don't
but,
answer questions.
But yes, it is
Okay.
county land.
It's
However,
county
it is in
land.
the city of Gallatin's urban growth boundaries, which are determined and agreed upon by all the entities within the county many, many years ago. And so all that land that is within the urban growth boundaries is eligible for annexation.
Right, I understand that. Okay. Thank you for answering the question.
My
I wasn't
pleasure.
aware that I wasn't allowed to ask
Well,
a
no, it's not
question.
that you're allowed. It's just
Okay.
typically we're just listening. And
This is my first time.
I'm glad you're here.
Anyway, thank you very much for giving me that grace. Okay, so on the agenda tonight is the first reading of the rezoning, correct? Okay, so we're not getting to annexation until a little further down the road. The question I have is, how are we here tonight discussing rezoning when the land is in the county and it has, at this point in time, not been annexed by the city of Gallatin?
It wouldn't be, it would not, engineers Bill, answer me that. It would not be rezoned. Again, we shouldn't be discussing this at this point, but it would not be rezoned until it was actually, it wouldn't be rezoned until it was our property. But
So,
this is-
right, correct. That's my point. You can't really have discussions on rezoning when the property has not been annexed. It's kind of like putting the cart before the horse. You need to have the annexation complete before you go discussing plans for the property.
Well,
That would seem the logical order of things.
I'll let you continue your comments.
Okay,
I'm
great.
sorry.
Okay, now, as far as annexation, from what I've gathered in my visits to here, to the City Hall, speaking with people in planning, is that y'all are going to, as you've already taken care of the newspaper article, the public notice, and then you will have, I believe it's 2 readings for annexation, correct? Okay, and then what? Just so we understand.
You should probably go ahead and ask all of your questions, and then we will address them in that discussion point. because
Well, that is my question, is what is the next step?
we will, go ahead and ask us all your questions
No,
and your
that's my final
comments.
question, and then I
Okay.
have something to say.
Okay, well, we will discuss that when we get to that item. And
So you have a first reading and a second reading,
we actually have a first reading, then a public hearing.
a public hearing, okay,
and a second reading.
second reading.
Yes, go ahead with your comments. Really, this is the public comment part of the meeting.
This is the public comment part. Okay, it's my understanding that City Council does not have it within their authority to grant the annexation
No.
on its own.
No, that's not true.
Okay, we have Avery Park, and I understand Mr. Lyons is all for the annexation, I understand that. But you have the corridor of Douglas Bend from the city limit sign up to the entrance of Avery Park, correct? You're wanting to annex that road, is that correct? Douglas Bend.
Again, I'm going to ask that you keep it on public comments because this question and answer between me and you is really not appropriate at this time. But
Okay.
we'll
Well,
discuss any of your concerns, or we'll
okay.
try to address your
All
concerns.
right, well, I haven't I haven't been able to get really an answer to that, which is why I'm asking here. But I have done some digging and gone to the state of Tennessee, and I understand that there actually are some rules regarding annexation. And when you're considering annexation of a roadway, you actually have to have a referendum ballot. And anyone on either side of the road being considered for annexation has a right to a vote at the next county election from Sumner County Election Commission. Are you all aware of that?
Ma'am, you need to keep your
Okay.
comments addressed to
Okay,
the council.
so the state of Tennessee, the Supreme Court of Tennessee, has already adjudicated that the people who own property on either side of the roadway to be annexed have the absolute right to a vote and simple majority rules. And if you want the statute, it's the Tennessee Election Statute, Section 2-3-204. Property owners cannot be denied their right to vote. TSA Section 6-51-104 and 6-51-105, referendum election on issue of annexation. And the case referenced is Topside Committee to oppose the annexation of Topside and Louisville Road, et al. Versus City of Alcoa in Blount County. Just want that for record. Appreciate y'all giving me the time. And I just want to make sure that y'all understand what the laws are and that y'all abide by the rules that are in place as per Tennessee Supreme Court. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gooden. For everyone's information, I did let those 5 minutes exceed quite a bit because I took a lot of that time. So, anyone else wishing to speak under public recognition, please come forward. I would ask if that you are planning to speak, that you come towards the front of the room so that we are not waiting between speakers. And we have in fact, there's seats up here where you can have a seat for a few minutes if you like. Hi there.
Hi, good evening. My name is Billy Barrett. I'm here as well to speak on the opposition of Avery Park as currently understand it being proposed. I am sympathetic to Ms. Good there in the fact that a little bit of misunderstanding this annexation process and the approval of Avery Park as it's proposed. And I think everybody sitting out here that's here tonight because of this is a little confused about first reading, second reading, and just how the process works. So I'm sympathetic to that, and I kind of hope you guys are too. But you know, I just want to think back to the December 12th meeting, special meeting we had here, and all the folks, and once again filled the room here. One gentleman asked for a show of hands of just who all was here that was against Avery Park, and I'd like to just throw that up again real quick.
Please keep your comments to the
Thank you.
council and the mayor, please.
It's a wake-up call. These are the people that you guys represent. Actually, you kind of don't represent because we're not in the city, and that's the confusion on this annexation part of it. We don't have that representation. I believe it's Mr. Overton, I apologize. You spoke about Coles Ferry and having family down Coles Ferry, and that's great that they've got a voice on the council here. We don't have that voice. And that's what we're all here for, to really plead to you guys to hear what we're talking about and hear the issues that we're talking about. I've tried to narrow it down in the sake of this 5 minutes to 3 issues. There are much more that I would like to discuss, and maybe there'll be time in the future to do that. But the 3 I knocked it down to were just, this neighborhood as it is proposed does not conform to what we have out Douglas Bend, period. No shape, form, or fashion. It is not, our neighborhood has existed for 40+ years back there, maybe longer. I've been back there 20 years myself. What is being injected into our neighborhood on 0.1 acre lots and the number of homes on 45 acres just doesn't pass the common sense test. And it's going to lend to my other 2 points, which is the traffic issues to follow. We're already maxed out on Douglas Bend. On the December 12th meeting, we talked about down Coles Ferry being an 18-foot wide versus a 22-foot wide road. I don't care if it's 25 feet wide. If it's 2 lanes, it's 1 lane in and 1 lane out. And we've already got an issue. I can pull out my phone, for the second time I won't do it, and show you a picture. Just on a Thursday at noon, I'm 12 cars deep trying to get out. We've already absorbed the huge apartment complex. Foxland is still being built out. We've got the service station on the corner, which is 1 road in, one way out, in, and 1 way out if you're trying to turn left on the Gallatin Road. So everything feeds to that traffic light right now. We're maxed out. And now we're looking at, we've got an approved 600-member church that's going in, and then we've got this high-density subdivision. And as it was said before, on the 12th meeting, no one here is opposed to Mr. Lyons or the developer developing this property. Just do it in a way that conforms with our neighborhood. We didn't choose.
Ladies and gentlemen, we do appreciate your passion, but it's not appropriate to applaud or make other comments during this time.
We didn't choose to live in those neighborhoods like Foxland and Fairview, which do have that type of housing built into them. It's a new subdivision. We've been there for 40+ years. The developer, the landowner, the builders, they need to respect the neighborhood and the residents that have been there for a long time. And that's kind of my take on that. I want to throw a quick thing out about this traffic circle. I'm an international airline pilot. There's another one retired here. I fly to Europe weekly. I'll be there tomorrow. Traffic circles look pretty on paper. They do not work. They're horrible. I don't care how big they are, 85 foot, 20 foot, it doesn't matter. It causes traffic jams. And here in the good old US of A, we don't know how to use them. 2 days after the meeting on December 14th, I drove into the traffic circle in the new apartment complex. Myself and 1 other car was there, and he pulled out right in front of me. I had to slam on my brakes to stop a collision. And now you're going to put a church with 600 members letting out at one time 200 yards south of this entrance. And a high-density subdivision along with existing traffic, it's a nightmare. Please don't even consider this traffic circle. Don't even consider it. Come up with another way, but they're awful. I deal with them weekly over in Europe, and it's not a good situation. Drainage issues, they got brought up last time. For the sake of time, I won't get into all that. I'm not an engineer. I don't think any of you guys are, but I would like to see the studies that Mr. Stanton, hopefully they've done some of those, and we'll get that education at the, I believe you said it was at the Clarion or Hampton, sorry. I'll get it and I'll be there and learn about it. But I just want you guys to realize, I mean, we're in unprecedented time here in Gallatin, the growth. Nashville is booming. We're going to all boom, all the cities are, but we got to do it right. We've got to build appropriately. There's housing places for everyone, but it doesn't need to be injected on a community that's been there for 40+ years. Thank you for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Hi, I'm Lynn Williams. I'm the other airline pilot that he was talking about that's driven around traffic circles all over the world. And
I'm going to ask you to repeat your name because I didn't get it, and we also need your address.
Lynn Williams.
And we also need your address.
1096 Edgewater Circle for the last 36 years in the Bend. And I will assure you that traffic circles do not work. We have, as Billy said, we have a church that's going to have 600 members. It's going to be leaving or letting out on Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings. Plus, we have this housing development here that we're talking about. We have all the other traffic that comes through the neighborhood area there at Douglas Bend. That's going to be all trying to exit at one road. I don't think there's a safety issue here. Perhaps you could widen the road or something, but a two-lane road is just not going to be good enough to handle that traffic. I own 3 properties in the Douglas Bend area. All 3 of them are going to be affected by this building of this, the expansion that's going on right there in Douglas Bend. I believe it will adversely affect my property values, as it will other property values in the Bend here. The traffic flow, we've already talked about that a couple of times. The drainage that comes off, we already, just in the last week, there's been a huge puddle at the bottom of the hill there at Douglas Bend where it turns to the right. We have run through it. It blocks the road on several different occasions, and unless there is a real serious drainage design there, I believe that situation is going to be worse for the people who live further down Douglas Bend. The schools are another issue. My son's wife is a teacher here in town, and the schools are crowded as it is. If we overcrowd them with the children here, I don't believe that's going to be good for anybody. I'm not asking you not, as Billy said, I'm not asking you not to expand or not to build new developments here in our area. I mean, we're growing hand over fist, and it has to be done. I'm just asking you to manage it in a way that's respectful to everybody else who lives in the Douglas Bend area. And I believe that this development, as it is being designed, is not what we should have in down Douglas Bend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Joe Matthews, 605 Harris Lane, Gallatin, Tennessee. Appreciate the opportunity. Each and every one of you have been around for a while in city government or other governments or other organizations. You are very smart and intelligent individuals. Got a lot of experience. And my experience that I've got, I'm listening to these people out here, which are constituents, which are voters that put you in office, if not before the annexation, then after the annexation. And they're asking you to hear what they're saying. And I'm asking you to hear what they're saying. I'm hopefully we'll be back in county government here after the election here myself for District 4. We've got a problem here in Sumner County and in Gallatin, especially in Hendersonville, of the high densities. They're going to have to stop. They're going to have to be managed. These people here are saying they don't want the high density because it doesn't conform to their area. We do not have the infrastructure set up at present to cover, just like fire station number 5. Behind the time for fire stations, that's evident. Behind the time more law enforcement, it's evident. Pull your figures. Crime down, well, it can be down, but it can depend on how you run the numbers and what kind of crime you're looking at, okay? But what we're saying, your citizens out here, and I hear it on a daily basis, are saying no to high densities. You're going to have to quit approving high densities. You're going to have to quit approving the apartment complex. We want to grow? That's great. Let's grow in a reasonable fashion. But just like the apartment complex are being built right along the railroad tracks. How long has it been since we had a development? 78, I think it was. That's a long time ago. It's a disaster waiting to happen. You're putting multi-families, multi-people right up next to the tracks on these apartment complexes you're building. And how does that relate here? This is the same thing, high densities. You're going to have to stop these developments that come in high densities. If you're weighing the dollar that it brings in to the developers versus the will of the people and what they want, we're in this office to do the will of the people, period, end of story. It's not that we're supposed to know best. And if we think we know best, then it's our job to go out to our citizens and educate them and give them the information as to why. But at the end of the day, if they still say no, the answer is no, and that's the way you should vote. Thank you.
ladies and gentlemen, we try to treat you with respect. I would ask that you do the same, and please respect the rules of order of this meeting, and please hold your applause.
Hi, my name is Brad Chittenden. I live at 1333 Dickerson Bay Drive, Gallatin. I am a professional registered engineer in the state of Tennessee and the state of Arizona. I just retired from the Pentagon, where I was master planner for the entire U.S. Marine Corps Air. I have done developments all over the world, and I can verify that high-density development in limited access areas is not a good idea. We have destroyed the quality of life on many of our Marine Air Stations by overdeveloping areas and underdeveloping the access to those areas. It's just not a very good idea. I can verify as a professional engineer that the points, and I'm not going to go over these points, but all the points brought up in opposition are very valid concerns, and it would impact the quality of life on everybody who lives down that one road. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lee Ellen Siders, and I live at 1108 Laughlin Drive in Gallatin, which is not off Douglas Bend. It is off Cages Bend, so I feel like whatever happens there is eventually going to have the dribble-down effect to us. But the point I want to bring out, and I'm not going to belabor all the drainage, the traffic, or that stuff you're going to hear over and over again tonight and at the public meetings to follow. What I want to ask you to do is to consider that this does not just affect Gallatin. This does not just affect all of the people in this room. This affects the entire county. And the reason I say that is mainly because of the school situation. I don't have any children in school, but I do have 3 grandchildren in school. And I have witnessed, especially in Hendersonville, the mess that that's you have to call it what it is. It's a mess down there because of all the high density and all the people moving in. And like the other speakers, I think each person who is a property owner has the right to do as he pleases with his property and make money. But when you consider, let's say we have 340 students that arise out of this development. 20 students per teacher. Look how many teachers there calls for. How many new salaries. The new schools that will have to be built. They're already having to be built. The high density only increases that number. And do you know who pays for those new schools? Everybody in this county. The people in Westmoreland pay for it. They're not having new schools or this influx of people moving in. The people in Bethpage, the people in Portland. And while those areas, Portland and White House, are growing, Millersville is growing, a lot of these people will not see any benefit from the new schools and the increase taxes that they are going to have to pay. And yes, they will have to pay it. I know personally people in my family who own farms that in the last almost 25% tax increase, they were in danger of losing their property. And if we keep allowing these high density projects come in without the proper infrastructure planning and the proper thought given to these other issues and whoever it affects, instead of making Sumner County a desirable place to live, and I grew up here all my life, so I can say it's a desirable place to live, but you're doing just the opposite. And I personally do not think it is fair, and I don't live in the Gallatin city limits, so I don't get to vote, but I don't think it's fair for the people down there in Westmoreland to have to pay these big high property tax increases. And I also ask that you be diligent in pursuing the annexation laws, because I know they've changed within the last couple of years. And I hope everyone is aware of the fact that cities or counties or whoever just can't annex your property without a public hearing. Now, I know in this case it's different because it's an individual asking. And if he's the only one who gets to vote, yeah, he's going to vote. So is that all for me?
Yes, ma'am, unless you
Well,
would
I
like to
just-
ask for an extension.
No, I just think that that's a point that needs to be considered along with all of the other issues. And thank you for your time that you devote to Gallatin. And I wish I could vote for some of you, but I can't.
Thank you, Ms. Siders.
Hi, my name is Ann Hathcote. I live at 1201 Bayview Drive, Gallatin. Like the lady before me, I'm a lifelong resident. I was born here, I was raised here, graduated from high school here. I can't say any more than what the people ahead of me has said, other than I am opposed to this Avery Park high density. I just don't think that the area can handle it. And like I said, I can't add anything else to what the people before me have said, but I just wanted to make public my opposition to Avery Park.
Thank you, Ms. Hathcote.
Brandon Clark. I live at 429 Douglas Bend. I don't know how much y'all have seen or can recall of what they're doing there, but the roundabout will literally be in my front yard. Not to mention my 90-year-old neighbor that the roundabout, her driveway is the 5th road that will go into the roundabout. At 90 years of age, I don't think that's going to be very appropriate for her. She still drives every day. She does everything. She just lost her husband 2 weeks ago and was in the hospital last week. She can't be here tonight. I've spent 16 years at the Sumner County Sheriff's Office. I'm a detective there, and I have definitely seen this county grow. I know it's going to. I know it's going to continue to grow. The points that everybody else has made about the high density, putting in 137 houses in that amount of acreage isn't going to go over very well. I could only imagine as we moved out there for that area, playing football in the front yard. I live on 1.4 acres, and you're going to put houses across the street. They're on 1/10 of an acre. There's a house that they just built. He's on 93/100ths of an acre, built 2 of them across the street. Those conform to the standards that everybody else has been talking about. One of them is on the market for $575,000. I don't think that the houses, the only entry-level houses that are being proposed here are going to conform to the standards that everybody else has been speaking of. The way I understand this subdivision, it only has one access point for emergency management vehicles. I don't think that conforms to the International Fire Codes. I believe this subdivision violates 5 of those fire codes. The road conditions going from the city limit sign into Gallatin are very substandard compared to the road conditions from the city limit sign to my house. I don't travel past my house very often unless it's work related, but I know the roadway from there is substandard at most. There's, especially with all the water that's come in here lately, the road has been just torn up. I believe that the things they have mentioned about the seasonal boat ramp being on that corner, I don't know how many of you live in that area or travel through that area on a given Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or any holiday, but you can barely make it through there for people parking all over the place with boats, trailers, extra vehicles, people trying to get to there. It's literally from the red light to Foxland to the entrance to Plantation or whatever that is, vehicles all along the side of the roadways. I don't think that putting in this amount of houses in this area, along with the church, which is going to put 600 member church, you know, on average, let's say half, 300 cars going in there on Sunday morning, with what we already have going on at that intersection and that roadway, is going to be very beneficial to anybody, especially law enforcement and emergency services that's going to have to deal with that repetitively, that I can see. So that's it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathy Plord, and I live at 1445 Dickerson Bay Drive since 1997. I share the same concerns as the rest of my neighbors, but I'm particularly concerned about a leap of faith we're going to take if this proposal is approved prior to full consideration of the impacts on the existing community. We request specifics and not nebulous speculations. In particular, when we see a plan addressing stormwater runoff and drainage management, when will we see it? The week before Christmas, 3 inches of rain shut down Dickerson Bay Road. The flooding was comparable to the flooding of 2010. Here's pictures for you to see. I observed last time we were here that the only one of you who really care about this is the one who lives in the neighborhood, and that was the Coles Ferry guy. When we see a detailed traffic impact, when will we see a detailed traffic impact analysis that considers the most recent factors of a 600-member church, the confluence of 3 high-density communities near Gallatin Road, and a service station that impedes left-turn traffic onto Gallatin Road? I can see the future at 5 p.m. on New Shackle, Drakes Creek, and Saundersville roads, where high-density developments preceded proper planning. For some reason, this process feels backwards. When I'm told we'll approve the concepts first and then figure out the details later, maybe I'm a little old school, but I was taught failing to plan is planning to fail. Thank you.
My name's Greg Hoagie. I live at 101 Lori Lee. That used to be 301 Douglas Bend. For a long time, we were the first house on Douglas Bend. I didn't prepare a big paper or anything, but I don't like talking in front of people. I got 3 kids. We go out of zone to Guild. Mainly, the teachers seem to be less compact at Guild than they are at Jack Anderson and Station Camp, though we will be going back in zone soon. When they annex that road, they're going to annex, I guess, to the right-of-ways. And there's an electrical pole right in my front yard. And it already leans, and there's a lot of rainwater drainage people are concerned with. I'm very concerned about all the poles down through there because they're right up against the ditch. If it washes out through there, those poles either going to come down or they're going to have down guides into our yards. My kids already don't play in the front yard because the traffic going down Douglas Bend is like a highway already. Everybody's saying it's going to get congested, which would slow it down, but we don't let them play in the front. There's a berm right behind my house. I taught my kids to shoot rifles, taught them to shoot archery back there. Foxland built on my property line almost. There's a thin tree line separating us with a berm. And that pretty much stopped the 22 rifles and the arrows going towards that direction. And, you know, we're in a county. The city limit sign that everybody keeps bringing up is in my yard. It's on the front. If there is a vote, like the lady was talking about earlier, it would be no from me because I directly touch it. But I'm just voicing my concerns that the kids play deeper in the neighborhood now. I'm 4/10 of a mile from where they're proposing it be built. So I'm fat, 300 pounds. I walk 2.5 miles at night, and it's 4/10 of a mile. It's not very far. I know how far that is. I don't know. It's just, I don't think it's going to be good for out there. I think it's already zone residential, and they should just stick to the zoning that's out there. I pride myself on owning a 3,000 square foot house on 1 acre in this neighborhood. And That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Tom Kaiser. I live on Dickerson Bay. I just have a couple comments I'd like to make. It seems like we're changing the game. We started out, gentleman bought a piece of property. He knew what the zoning laws were, knew what the rules were, owned it for several years, and now he wants to develop it. So we started out playing basketball, but now we want to move a football stadium into the basketball court, and he's asking for you guys to help do that. He wants to change the zoning, and the way to do that is get you guys to go in with him where he can change the rules in the middle of the game, and I think it's unacceptable. I also wonder, with the traffic circle, why don't we just, if he's going to develop this, why don't he cut a road down the side of his property by his house and come out over on Cage's Men instead of Douglas Men? It
Ladies
would
and
seem to
gentlemen.
me to be a more appropriate thing, since there's so many houses and so many people are being affected by that traffic circle. Seems it would be appropriate, just run road right down beside his house and let all the traffic flow down by his house. Would be better than putting a traffic circle in. Just a suggestion, and thank you.
Hey, Tom, can I ask you a question? Sure. Yeah, you've lived on Dickerson Bay or whatever, right? Is that right down there by y'all?
This is at the corner of Douglas Men and Dickerson Bay.
Okay.
This is
Well, let me-
5-6 times a year,
And
the way it is now.
And the question I've got, you've lived back there a long time. What does the county do about this?
So far,
Yes.
Tom, come back.
Okay.
I mean, I don't mean. to-
Audience needs to hold their comments. Councilman Hayes needs to turn his mic on.
I was,
Okay.
I was asked what the county does about the flooding. There has been some adjustment. When we moved there almost 40 years ago, there were no houses on the left-hand side of the road, and it was considered a floodplain. Then all of a sudden, a couple of houses popped up. People moved in, and I stopped and asked the gentleman who bought the house, do you know your house is on a floodplain? Did the realtor tell you your house is on a floodplain? He said no. And now, when it floods, they did make a slight adjustment when that house was built. I assume the contractor did. It floods at least 5 times, 6 times a year up into his front yard. The road is impassable for several hours. The signs are there. They've been there for years, permanent signs that fold in half, magnetic signs. They just pop them down and say, up, flooded, don't pass.
That's what I mean. It's, my mic's not on, I guess. But anyway, that's what I mean. This has been going on. I've lived here all my life, but this has been going on for a long time.
It has.
And I'm just saying, if why, I don't understand why the county, because I look at all 7 of us, if this happened somewhere in the city, we wouldn't be here right now.
I'm not sure that there's a whole lot that they can do about that. That land is in a swag, and the prospective church and the community is up on a hill and is going to drain right down into the swag. If you go there, there's 2 large pieces of property on the right-hand side and houses on the left,
Yep.
and it drains into the lake, and there's no place for it to go without a major construction at that point in time. I don't think it's workable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Betty Border, and I hope you've listened to everything we all have to say. We've been at these meetings each time.
Your address, Ms. Porter?
1121 Dickerson Bay Drive. And so there's a couple things, the reason why I'm up here is, one of the things that a lot of these people don't know is I called into, it's the project manager, his name is, and I probably won't say it right, Brian Riefschneider at the engineering department, because of all that development Goodall is doing. And I asked him, I said, okay, there's no turn lanes, The entry is coming right up to the road. Is there going to be a traffic light? He said, no, that's state. And he said, we're watching it. He said, but the state has told us there will be no traffic light there, he said, until there is more commercial development. So that means a lot of those people, they're not going to chance getting out on that pike in the morning or at night when it is as bad as it is. They're going to be coming back out on Douglas Bend because they're going to have no other alternative. And we have them backing up, like one of the gentlemen said, 12 cars back. Okay, what do you think it's going to do when you get all those people from in there having to try to come around besides? So this all needs to be looked at. And the only other thing I have to say is, we've been in here and we've talked to y'all. You've talked, I've listened to you talk about these different developments and what you'll approve and what you won't, how much brick and all this, and the density. But yet this one's coming in here and all of a sudden we've got this big high density that they want to cram in on us and y'all want to approve it. And we're all just very concerned. It changes exactly how we all live out in that area and what our lives will be like. And it's not you that has to put up with it. It's the ones of us who have to put up with it that live there and try to get around. And you know that because of all that and them shutting that down, if they put a roundabout or whatever in there, that we're going to have to be going around the side streets. And how do you think those people are going to feel when they all of a sudden they get big construction trucks and everything going around in their backyard? They're not going to be happy about it either. So that's all I have to say, but I just thought the people needed to know about the fact that there will be no traffic light there.
Thank you.
My name is Edward Durham. I'm at 320 Featherstone. Councilman Hayes, to answer your question about the drainage from the flooding we have there, the reason that doesn't drain or the county hasn't done anything with it, it drains into a sinkhole. Not a whole lot they can do about it. And truth be known, I believe the sinkhole is actually in city limits. The Gallatin city limits are on next to the Foxland Golf Course maintenance building. That's really, they can't do a whole lot about it because there's nowhere else to put it. It floods like that several times a year, impassable, as again said, for several hours when it does happen. And as I said, if you guys do approve this, well, maybe you can approve something to alleviate that drainage and fix the sinkhole in your city.
But it's been doing, I guess my point was, it's been doing it way before we annexed that Foxland in the city.
No, it's been doing it for a long time, that's correct. But any additional flow coming off these new developments with the roadway impermeable surfaces is going to contribute greatly to this. Thank you.
My name is Ray Nicholson. I live at 307 Wadebrook Drive. Correct me if I'm wrong. I understand that Douglas Bend Road is not going to be annexed. I understand this is spot annexation. I understand that the city of Gallatin will not be providing sewer service. They're going to tie in on Cage's Bend. I guess they won't be providing water service either. And of course, as a city, they don't have to worry about the crowded schools. And of course, I'm also concerned about the high density and my property values. But I can't understand why Gallatin picks this particular piece of property to annex it if they're spot annexing it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak under public recognition? Now would be the time. I would remind you that if you're interested in speaking, to come towards the front of the room so we're not waiting between speakers, because there is a 21-item agenda tonight.
Hello, my name is Wink Rager, and I live on Dickerson Bay Drive. And we already have a problem there at Foxland. We have curbings for inbound and outbound traffic, and if there were a problem with a car not running or getting stalled, there are curbings to prevent us from going around it. And that started when those were built as one lane instead of 2 lane. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Chris Porch. I live at 2706 Cadiz Bend. To finish what she's saying, is we have had those issues with vehicles breaking down on the curb roads, and it's been an extreme struggle on that. My main question I've got is I'm hoping you guys have addressed, and I just don't know about it yet. Our schools are already at capacity. Several have recently completed additions that only got them up to date with the current population increases. None of them have room for the additional students and the future developments it will create. And this is the developments of the apartments that are already in progression there behind the market on the corner, as well as the ones on Big Station Camp. So how many, after those apartment complexes further put our schools overcrowded, how many more students are we going to put on our teachers? How much more is this? And lastly, is this not the same building proposition that was proposed in Hendersonville that they shot down? Thank you.
My name is Lee McNulty. I live at the end of Dickerson Bay Drive. I'm a relative newcomer here compared to almost all the people here. I've just been here for a couple of years. I'd like to say that I agree with everything that everybody said. I'm really opposed to the high density aspect of this. If you get it down to where what is being proposed for development is consistent with the rest of the neighborhood in that area, then I won't be so opposed. Yeah, you got to grow. I'd also like to make one comment. We come from a place in Texas, a little town called Keller, and they were about 15 years ago in roughly the same situation that I sense Gallatin is in today. Huge popular destination, very, very popular, surrounded by a lot of rural land that was available for annexation in addition to the city. They made a conscious decision that they did not want to do high-density housing. They wanted to keep it the kind of neighborhood that they were at the time, which was typically lots were a half acre, an acre, maybe an acre and a half. So they focused on that. They did allow some apartments in, but where they allowed apartments and townhomes in, they tried to get those relatively concentrated and provide appropriate infrastructure services for them at the time. They went through that, and today Keller is still a very popular place. They haven't had a loss of popularity as a result of their policies, and it's increased their tax revenue, as I understand it. So what happened was became such a popular place that all the property values went up, and they continue to get more tax income than they had previously. So I'd like you to give that a consideration for the future of Gallatin and Sumner County as a whole. It'll increase the desirability of this part of the countryside, and I think probably increase our stature in the state and area. Thanks very much. Appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. I'm Linda Vaughn. I live at 1129 Douglas Place. Been a realtor in Sumner County and the greater Nashville area for 40 years. I've been a resident of Rivermont subdivision for 40 years in the same property I built there in 1978. I've lived in this area before we had city telephone service, local telephone service. We have contended with septic systems, but done very well with it. We've contended with driving from Gallatin Road back to my property, which is about probably 3.5 miles from the road, and I expect those that drive back to Dickerson Bay and Windsor Bay are driving even farther. We have one ingress and egress out of our properties, down Douglas Bend, or we can cut over to Cages Bend, or we can go from Cages Bend to Chutes Lane, a very dangerous street that has telephone poles right on the road. Very disconcerting because the school there that houses so many children get in school buses and travel that road. Now the traffic, everyone's discussed that issue. My concern as a realtor is the property values for the residents who choose to live there above any place else in Hendersonville or Gallatin. I chose to live there because of the rural area. high-density properties at 0.16 of an acre is beyond my comprehension. I don't think you would enjoy that if you lived on acreage lots, half-acre lots, three-quarter-acre lots, in some cases 5-acre lots. We don't want this. As a Gallatin County resident for 40 years, I've enjoyed good roads. I've enjoyed facilities that are provided. We get our water from White House Water. We do have pressure issues. We get our electric from Cumberland Electric. They recently upgraded all of that electricity out there, all the transformers, all of it, because our electricity was going down 3 or 4 times a week. I don't believe anyone's mentioned that. But I have a home office fully equipped, and about 3 times a week, my systems were completely shutting down. My concern is the pre-planning that's gone into this for the facilities, none of which I will belabor you with again. But I think this development, the guy invested this money. I understand he lives on Cages Bend or somewhere near it. Let's do something consistent with the area. It's the most desirable area in the county. It's the most desirable area. We're there around the lake. It's beautiful. There are large farms. And I guess the biggest concern that I have is the precedent that it will set on this peninsula, because there are other owners, developers, who are just waiting for this to pass because they own 80 to 100 acres, maybe more. They're large farms. So I request that you give this serious consideration as though you live there. The overcrowding of the schools, they've just built onto that school 2 or 3 times, and they're in portables again. It's just not feasible, and given your ability to reason this out, we're not asking that it not be developed. We're asking it be consistent, and before you allow development, to do feasibility studies, to consider the flooding, to consider the traffic, consider the way we have to go in and out, which is very limited right now. It's very limited. So I know one other issue is that we didn't have a fire department out there. When I first moved, all of the residents in number 1 got together and we paid each year to build the finest fire department, or one of them. Won't take it away from the city, but I've been told in the county, and the city of Hendersonville came and annexed that after we paid for it. I was also told that if I needed a fireman out there, who would I call? And they said, well, you can call us, of course, but if the city of Hendersonville needs our services, that's where we're bound to go first because we're annexed. I don't see all the benefits of annexation. I've been in the county. I pay county taxes. I have my trash picked up. My roads are excellent. If I need anyone to help, I call the sheriff's office. They are there in 5 minutes. My mother passed away in January, and the emergency services were in my living room before I could get my robe on. I mean, I don't see the benefits in any way. And thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Vaughn. Anyone else wishing to speak under public recognition? Sorry, I'm running a clock and doing that. Again, if you're wishing to speak, I'm going to ask that you come forward so that we're not waiting and wondering if there's another speaker waiting.
My name is John Nutter. I live at 163 Leetta Drive. I've heard all the discussion tonight, and the previous lady and her comments are right on. We all live in the Bend. We moved out there because we liked it. I also have a father, he's deceased now, that worked in urban redevelopment. He was very involved years ago in a city that was doing something similar to Gallatin. They let mass production of apartment complexes, small lots come in, and I want to remind you, in 20 years, there'll be a liability to make sure that's taken care of. We got to think ahead. We're not prepared for that. We're not prepared now. think about what happens to property values. That's a big deal. We need you to use common sense. We're not against anybody in here, but we own our property. We want to take care of it. We're proud of it. We're proud of the people we work with. But common sense goes a long way. There's laws on the books. You can fight laws. That's okay. Let's do what makes good sense for the people in the area that live here. We want to make Gallatin, and we all know it, a proud place to live and raise our families. Getting high-density housing doesn't help. It's going to hurt us, and it will make us spend a lot of money. The other thing is, I live next to Foxland. Foxland in the back end has high-density housing. Let me tell you what's going to happen. There's 80 houses, 40 of them are just about done. It's taken 2.5 years. They're not finished. Trucks are in and out every day. The roads are beat up. We've had numerous problems. And they're not finished. They still have 40 to go. You think 130-something on that corner up there is going to be done in 6 months? The people in the area will be up in arms because you're going to destroy the environment we live in. It's not needed. There's a lot of opportunity. Let's look a little further. Let's plan them better. Let's be a planned community, not haphazard. We appreciate you guys for letting us have the chance to talk. But we need your help and support. Please do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, public recognition on agenda-related items is still open. If you'd like to speak, now would be your opportunity. Okay, I see no one indicating that they wish to speak, so I'm going to declare public recognition on agenda-related items closed, and that will move us into the regular agenda. And guess what? We start with a public hearing. So item number 1 is public hearing on ordinance number 01711-94, and Councilman Alexander is recognized.
Okay, this is the order of the City of Gallatin, Sumner County, Tennessee, a rezone of 2.38 acre lot, tax map 1130, Group N, parcel 002.04 from the R10 medium density residential district to the R6 high density residential district located at 599 West Eastland, authorizing the revision to be indicated on the official zoning atlas, repealing conflicting ordinance, providing for servability and providing for an effective date. Public hearing.
Okay, the public hearing is now open on ordinance number 01711-94. If there's anyone wishing to speak, they may come forward at this time. Okay, I see no one indicating that they wish to speak, so I will declare public hearing on ordinance 01711-94 closed. Item number 2 is public hearing on ordinance number 01711-96, and Councilman Hayes is recognized.
Yeah, this is an ordinance of the City of Gallatin, Sumner County, Tennessee, rezoning portions of 2 parcels totaling approximately 76.47 acres from the MRO Multiple Residential and Office PGC Plan General Commercial and the MU Mixed Use zoning districts to the RA Medium Density Residential Planned Residential Development District and approval of a preliminary master development plan for Kensington Downs. This is public hearing.
Public hearing on 0711-96 is now open, and you should come forward if you wish to speak on this. Again, please introduce yourself and give us your address.
Hello, my name is Michelle Landry Juvance, and my address is 1335 Long Hollow Pike, Gallatin. First of all, I have a letter from my neighbor who was not able to be here tonight, and she asked me to read this for her. Her name is Allison Jones Spears, and her husband is Martin Spears, and they signed this letter together. It says, "Dear Mayor and City Council members, as property owners of 1307 Long Hollow Pike, we appreciate you reading our letter in regards to the proposed Kensington Downs development. We are out of town, otherwise we would be attending this meeting. Our property shares a property line with the proposed Kensington Downs development that is over 1,500 feet long. As fourth generation owners of our land, we are appreciative of your efforts to balance new development with the families and properties that have been a part of Gallatin for many generations. As you continue to contemplate the proposed development of Kensington Downs, We respectfully ask that you please consider the following 3 points. Please help to maintain the character of the surrounding area, large estate homes on 5+ acre lots, many of which are generational in ownership and or historically significant. 2, please do not approve any entry to the development from Long Hollow Pike. 3, please require that any new development must maintain existing natural property line buffers. This would include, but not limited to, the current fence rows, undergrowth, and tree rows that buffer properties. Recognizing that property lines run vertical, any damage done to the trees, undergrowth, etc., on the development side of the property line could dramatically affect existing property owners' natural buffer. Leaving current natural buffers on and between existing property owners will provide safety and continued privacy for current property owners that border new developments. So here's her letter. And then now I would like to make my comments. First of all, I would like to state that I have never been against this development. I've only been against the density of this development, and more specifically, the density on the 13-acre strip that connects to Long Hollow Pike. That's what's next to our house. I worked very hard trying to come to a solution and trying to come to an agreement that would benefit everyone, the developer, the neighbors, and the historic home next door, which is our home. And it seemed that we had come to an agreement that made everyone happy. At the last meeting, which was 4 weeks ago, we had come to an agreement beforehand that we had all discussed and agreed, and I think you all were aware, that if my husband and I bought the land that was adjacent to our property and that the developer did not own it, he would not be required to build a big expensive bridge and pay for a turn lane, and that would save him a ton of money. And the neighbors, the result would be that the neighbors would be happy because the development would not connect to Long Hollow Pike. The developer would be happy because it would save him money, and we would be happy because it would protect the historic site. At this time, we have not made much progress. For weeks, the developer has canceled meetings with us, stalled, and made excuses. Finally, after my husband and I continued to follow up with him, he did email a contract on Thursday at 5 p.m., right before a holiday weekend. Our real estate attorney was not available on Friday to look at the contract when I called him, and not available today because of the holidays. When I called Bill, the developer, on Thursday evening, right after I received his email, after receiving the contract, I told him I was not happy because it was different than what we had agreed on verbally. And his answer to me was, if you don't want to buy the land, that's okay with me. I don't know what kind of game that this developer is playing right now. It seems that now he has gotten what he wanted. He doesn't have to build this big expensive bridge and pay for a turn lane. And now that he got what he wanted, it seems like he was just using us, and it's only about money for him. My second point this evening is, since the last meeting 4 weeks ago, we did have one day of significant rain. It rained for 24 hours, and we received...
I'm going to ask you to pause for just a minute, Council.
Yes.
Would you like to allow her to continue?
Very soon. I did have to read a letter from someone else, so can I just have a little bit extra time?
Okay, with Council.
Thank you.
I see no one saying no.
So with the rain, we had 3 inches of rain. And because I now see our property from a different perspective, with the possibility of 0-lot homes going in next door on the field, this rain was a concern to me, and I really paid attention to what was happening with the water. this field is being proposed to be almost completely covered by concrete, and I'm concerned about the effect that the water runoff and flow will have on our property. This land is full of underground aquifers and springs, and we have a well on our property. On Saturday, I was speaking with one of my neighbors who lives on Harris Lane. She told me that last year their well was completely destroyed by development that is being built next door to them. Any of my neighbors can attest to the water runoff and flow at our location. It's a tremendous amount of water. I would like to ask permission to conduct an independent water impact study. My husband and I are happy to pay for it, and I want to see what the water is going to be doing to not only just the flow on top, but also the aquifers underneath, as I'm very concerned about what this will do to our property and to the underground spring that comes out in the creek below us. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jimmy Conklin. Good evening, first of all. I live at 653 Harris Lane, and I didn't really come to talk about flooding, but that'll be in another meeting. Can't get in and out. Harris Lane is a river when it rains. I'll have to show you all those pictures. Nick Tuttle wouldn't believe them if he saw them. 13 years ago, my wife and I decided we needed to get out of Nashville. And we weren't born in Gallatin and raised in Gallatin. We chose Gallatin as the place we wanted to come. We looked around and did a lot of research, and we found a piece of property on Harris Lane, 5.5 acres, open land, put a couple of horses on it, built our dream house that hopefully in 4 years I'll retire in. And all of a sudden I look up and Harris Lane is not what it used to be. I got apartments going in and new subdivisions. Cambridge Farm is starting to wrap around the back of us. There's another one that's going to be coming in there at 386 and Long Hollow Pike. And, you know, I'm not opposed to development, but I would like to see Long Hollow Pike stay more neutral to the ingress and egress on the Long Hollow Pike would be nice if it wasn't there, because we're in an offset road that we have to cross on Harris Lane where Liberty Creek is, and having to watch for more traffic pulling out of there and the traffic coming around the corner right now from the light up there that just got put in. It's getting difficult to pull out, and I don't want to be a 109 down the road where I have to sit there for 5 minutes to try to get across the street. So, and, you know, just wanted y'all to consider that aspect of the master development plan on the egress and ingress. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Pascal Jovens. Michelle is my wife. First, I would like to thank you all and thank the wonderful team you have. We have been bothering for a few months now, and it's like being at home here. Michelle made some good point and took some words out of my mouth. For several months now, that's been a roller coaster. We've been dealing with Bill, Charles. I'm somebody who take the word of a people as a word. When somebody tell me something, for me, that's supposed to happen. And we had a meeting with Bill, and Bill's exact word were, my word is my bond. So I would like to put on a record that Bill should follow his word and do what he said he will do and not change at the last minute. Because with what he's changing now, what he's going to do in a few weeks, he's going to change again, do something different. I think we're coming from California, so I think you guys got used to already?
No, sorry.
Oh, fast.
Sorry.
Is that discrimination?
My bad.
I think you guys all got used to the green, and that's why we move here, to keep green, not to get back on houses with no green. If we want that, we go to California again. That's not what we want. And I was pretty amazed by all these people who came from the other proposed development, and I think they're right. The high density is good where that fits. And I don't think a development like that is going to fit on this 15 acres band. The newest development from Mr. Charles is to put a, how do you call that, an outside lane to connect to maybe a future development. We were supposed to stop his development at our property limit, and now he's going almost 2 acres more in what he said to put that egress lane to nowhere. So what I propose is that if Mr. Charles stick to the word he said, that means stopping his development at our property line, if at one point in the future this egress lane is needed to connect to another development, I would agree to make a deal with the city of Gallatin, and at that point, if it's needed, to give the land to the city to make that egress lane. That's my offer. Try to make everybody happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, Joe Matthews, 605 Harris Lane, short and sweet. Y'all know the concerns. We was here last time, so y'all know what most of the neighborhood citizens around have requested consideration from this council. And I hope in the future that the counties and cities can start working together in reference to the high density and the infrastructure that is needed in order to try to keep up with the movement that's going on at the time. This is another, I think it was medium density. Councilman Hayes said it was currently, but bottom line, it's a lot of residential housing close together on acres of land. Once again, you take people, many people, stick them side by side, touching each other at times. There were situations that will be come about. Some people will like it, some people won't. That's neighbors and how things go. But we're going to have to study hard, once again, the infrastructure. And the county and the Gallatin and Hendersonville needs to work together on that for these type developments. Not opposed to development as long as the considerations that we put forth last time in a win-win situation, as Michelle and her husband have stated, they've made a very generous offer from their end to assist in this development. The developer, Bill, did say that his word is his bond, and he has told us and had agreed previously. Some things might have happened since then that might have changed his mind. But before this gets approved and goes forward to the final reading, considerations of what the citizens are requesting, I hope, are done in place so that Bill can do his development, people can move in, tax base can continue to go up, but again, working together to make sure that it just doesn't kill our infrastructure. Right now, Long Hollow Pike is not an area of place that you want to see crowded. This is historical house that we're talking about. There's another historical house that's in back of my house. It's still got the stagecoach step that they used to bring up in the stagecoach and get off. Michelle and her husband's house has got very significant to the area. And so we just don't want to see that destroyed or imposed on greatly by this high-density people side-by-side subdivisions coming in. And that's basically all I got. Since Craig is right here, I would say we got annexed in 2008. In 5 years, we were supposed to have sewer. It's been 10. I still don't have sewer. Thank you.
Jim Overmole, 1341 Long Hollow Pike. I live right next door to the old farm, old house that Michelle was talking about. My property actually wraps behind the back of her property and will be alongside this new development. Since there seems to be a change on where that line with the property that they were going to be built was agreed to at some point, and we have gone through a lot of talking with the developer in the past, and I think we were all pretty happy with what we had gotten to. Now that he changes that, I'm concerned about other things that are going to affect not only my neighbor's property, but my property, and that's the buffer that was agreed to. It was substantially more than what the city requires. And so I'd like to make sure that that is in the record, that that does not change. We need that buffer, not only for us, but for any people moving in. I don't want somebody, you know, complaining about my cows or, you know, anything else that I've got, you know, feeding area back in there. So that's my biggest concern right now, you know, especially since, you know, we thought we had everything worked out and, you know, was agreed upon. And he was pretty, you know, very agreeable, you know, working with us in the beginning. But now this first change, what's the next change? I think we need to be very careful about what we're going to, you know, allow to be constructed there. So I appreciate your consideration for what is, you know, really needed and what's being requested and what was agreed to originally on the layouts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, Mayor Brown, Council. Thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak. I'm the lead pastor of Freedom Church, and I was concerned when this development was going to be brought in, but after Mr. Charles and his team came and met with our executive team, and we spent some time together and we reasoned back and forth, we come to an agreement, and he's done everything that he's told us he would do, and his word has been his bond, because that was our concern, wrapping around us completely out there. For those here, if you have not seen the development and seen what it is an enhancement to the community of Gallatin. It is not another 3,000 apartments. It's an enhancement, and I believe that. And so our concern is being able to turn our services over when you have, 500 cars turning over in a couple of services, was having the right turn there out of Freedom Church Road. We've been serving this community for 10 years. It's been Freedom Church Road, but we came to an agreement. Mr. Charles and his civil engineer, Jim Harrison, met with city engineer here and with Bill and come to an agreement on that to suffice for us. And they've been over backwards. They're going to be able to help us to be able to have sewer for future growth for our church, to be a blessing to the community. So I just wanted to make a point that they have done everything they can do to bend over backwards to be able to do what they said they do and to be able to help this with this community. And so Freedom Church, and I speak for our flock, is for this development and for the future growth of Gallatin. And the way the road is going out, and even in the traffic study, to my understanding, it's going to be good for all of us, and it's not going to be any kind of congestion. So I just want to make that point. Thank you guys for letting me speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak under the public hearing on ordinance 01711-96?
My name is Jim Harrison with Civil Site Design Group, and I'm the engineer of record. I just wanted to get up here and clarify a few things. We met back prior to Christmas, and we were looking at future connectivity of roads and where they could come in. We're going to continue to work and talk with Michelle and Pascal about these things, but let me just say one thing. Bill Charles has never done anything but direct us to try to work this out with the neighbor next door to us and have that mindset about what we are doing. We are committed to that. The buffer between Mr. Overmall is still in the plan. We are still fully committed to what we presented as the buffer that retains the existing trees and provides the enhanced buffer. I just wanted to clarify some of those things. Let me just say too, as an engineer, sometimes when you go through and look at some of these engineering details and some of the alignment, some of the distances and some of the measurements will change a little bit. We're still working through that. We were trying to work through that before the holidays as best we could and get something to Michelle and Pascal, and we're going to continue to work in that with that mindset, just like we've worked with the church. We're going to continue to try to work and cooperate with the neighbors as best we can. So I just wanted to clarify that if I could. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak under public hearing? Okay, I said
Can-
no,
Can we put this on the agenda for next week, please, on the committee?
certainly.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm making a note so I don't forget. Okay, I'm going to declare public hearing on ordinance number 01711-96 closed. Council, I'm going to give you the option. Would you like to take a recess before we discuss item number 9 or after? Before, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a 5-minute recess. We will start again at 7:43. We're recessed. Two-minute warning. 2-minute warning. Huh? I don't know. You want me to say? I'm going to ask that everyone take their seat again. I think we're still waiting on one council person, but I bet he will return to his seat shortly. We are now going to move to item number 9 on the agenda, which is first reading on ordinance number 01801-3, and Councilman Hayes.
Yeah, this is the first reading, an ordinance of the City of Gallatin, Tennessee, rezoning 44.39 acre parcel from the Sumner County Residential A District to the R10 Medium Density Residential Planned Residential Development District, and approving a preliminary master development plan for Avery Park. See, motion for discussion.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilman Overton. That does open the floor for discussion. I'm going to ask a couple of things here to help the concerned residents have better understanding. First would be with Mr. Bill McCord. I saw you shake your head. Would you please just describe for them the process that we will go through before this reaches its final stage, if it does?
Oh, excuse me. Bill McCord, City Planner. Yes, this is an unusual process that we're going through because, as been alluded to, state laws have changed regarding annexation. And the annexation laws now require request by petition, and referendum is another option, but it has to be done by resolution. In this case, they've submitted a petition, the property owners did. The annexation law allows for non-contiguous annexation, meaning there's properties that are not adjacent to the current city boundaries can be annexed if they are inside the urban growth boundary, which this property is. We have met with the county, and the county had requested that we annex the right-of-way, and that's the right-of-way of Douglas Bend Road from the current city limits down to this property. So the proper process for doing that under the new annexation law is to enter into an interlocal agreement with the county. And that's really the first step, is to do this interlocal agreement, and we're working with the county on that as we speak. Once the interlocal agreement is approved and or adopted, then the annexation resolutions can be considered by the council, and then the zoning approval would be considered. Now, the annexation resolution is only done once. There's a public hearing for that annexation, and then there's a resolution normally following 2 weeks after the public hearing.
So does that mean that second reading can't happen until the annexation happens? Because obviously we can't rezone land
Second reading of the
that's not
rezoning
ours.
ordinance, right.
Okay.
So because of the complexities involved in the interlocal agreements and the petition of annexation also that the county has requested or will be requesting of us to fulfill the requirements of the interlocal agreement, again, all this would have to be approved by the county commission, the interlocal agreement. Until those dominoes are aligned properly where they fall properly, we cannot formally annex and or establish zoning on the property. But as far as the sequence of events go, the annexation ordinance, or excuse me, the annexation resolution would be read prior to, in this case, it would probably be at the same meeting as the second reading of the rezoning, which includes the master development plan.
I hope that helps people that had questions. Also, would ask our attorney, Susan Macaulay, to maybe offer some assurance that the City of Gallatin is well aware of the new annexation laws and that we are following them.
Yes. I don't think my mic is working, but just for your information, the state laws changed just this last session. So this is a new process. A referendum is not required for this process. There are some old laws and referendum was allowed. The city cannot annex any property unless there's a petition to do so. That means that the property owner has to come and make that request. The city can no longer go out and just annex properties like it was able to do in years past. But we do know about these new laws, and I can assure you that we are following the laws in this process.
Okay, I think that addressed the main concerns that I wanted to address. Thank you, Mr. McCord. And council, we can now continue with the discussion.
I was going to say, and tonight is first reading, then it'll come up to public hearing in 2 weeks, correct? And then
Will we go ahead and schedule the public hearing in 2 weeks, Mr. McCord?
We're still on track. We can go through the public hearing. My concern is that the second reading may not be the first meeting in, and most likely will not be the first
Yeah.
meeting and the annexation in February. So
Okay,
we don't
that's-
know
that's fine.
exactly when
I
that's
just
going to
want to make
happen.
sure everybody understood
That
that
will-
there is a public hearing, which will be roughly on what day? The
16th.
16th? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to tell. I appreciate Mr. Stanton getting the meeting lined up, for I think that's a week from this Thursday, I guess, at the Hampton Inn. So, and that way, I think that'll give them a little bit more information about what's going on with that development too.
Anyone else wishing to discuss?
I'm not happy about these lot sizes not matching the rest of the area. I'm not happy about the traffic, and I'm not happy about that drainage from this pictures we saw especially. I just don't see how this could work in that neighborhood.
I don't know if, in response to that, I don't know if City Engineer Nick Tuttle wants to talk about those, how we're addressing stormwater. And council, do you wish to hear from Nick at this point, or?
Just a question. I don't want to annex anything. The flooding, and I think Craig addressed this, this flooding, is that within the area to be considered annexed?
No, it's about,
'Cause the last thing we want to do,
yeah, it's about 500
about a
yards
half
past
mile
there.
down the road, but this property could exacerbate that probably, okay, from what we heard.
I would say we would hope not.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that our responsibility? Ladies and gentlemen,
On that, so, yeah, anything, in this 2,600 feet, if the county's having any problems, I'm sure they'd love for the city to take it over at our expense to have to fix anything down there, so we need to be certainly aware about that.
yeah, that flooding area is past there and
Okay.
has flooded since I was 3.
So, may I ask Bill a question?
Certainly.
So if this gets through first reading, if it gets to a public hearing, then the next consideration would be dependent upon the county agreeing and approving to us a written agreement to be given back to you, to be given back to us for consideration?
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, whether, in this case, we're requesting that the county commission address the interlocal agreement first, and then we'll bring it
Right.
back. And then it could be at the same meeting as the annexation resolution.
But at that time, that's only annexation, it's a resolution rather than 2 votes, correct?
That's correct. There is a public hearing before the annexation as well, so that'd be 2 weeks.
But
in advance,
annexation
and
is 1 vote rather than
Right,
2 votes,
exactly.
which is different, correct, Susan?
Yes, the state law changed. It used to be by ordinance, and now it's by resolution.
It's by resolution, so it's 1 vote rather than 2 in this particular matter. This tonight is strictly zoning, correct?
That's all you're considering at this point.
It's strictly zoning, this piece of property. So I assume if it's not annexed, the prospective developers probably wouldn't want this type of zoning, I'm guessing.
Well, the zoning
Well,
can't change if we don't.
You won't have authority to zone the property to effectuate the ordinance unless it's in the
Without
city. Because
annexation.
it's not in the planning region.
Gotcha, okay. All right, thanks, Pete.
Any other questions or comments by this council? Okay, we're going to take a vote on first reading on ordinance number 01801-3. I would ask all in favor to please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, please say no. No. Okay, so that would pass 6-1. No abstentions? Okay, I judge that as passing 6-1, Ms. Kitchell, with Ms. Love voting no. Okay. We will move on to item number 3, which is second reading on ordinance number 01711-89, and Vice Mayor Overton.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance. Got it now? Testing 1, 2.
It's not going.
This is it, can you hear me now? This is ordinance 01711-89, it's appropriating $455,047.99 for the purchase of fire engine. I'll make a motion for discussion.
Okay. Motion by Vice Mayor Overton, second by Councilman Alexander. Open for discussion by the council.
Yeah, I've got some obvious questions. The fire chief back a month or so ago when we were discussing this said that, you know, if we don't do the fire hall, I don't need a fire truck, vice versa, okay? Have you signed the I know that this may be subject page to number 7, but have you signed a contract for the builder yet?
No. But I haven't, I mean, I'm thinking we're moving that direction, so.
Okay, how soon, because how soon do you think you would sign a contract, if you will sign a contract with the low bidder that we have?
I'm guessing it's gonna be as soon as you approve those additional funds.
Okay, the 65,000, which would be tonight. So you intend on signing that contract real soon after that?
Yeah, because I'm sure the bid is probably getting close to expire. I don't know the date on the expiration of the bid, but it's probably getting close.
Okay. Now I need some finance numbers. Just because we've got 2 or 3 issues here in concerning different. Let's talk about the money. If you know these off the top of your head, I don't know. But do you know how much we have in the undesignated fund after we have netted everything? We've netted what we've approved last week. Everything that you know is out there. Net of the carryover. How much do you believe that we may have in the general fund, undesignated, between now and June 30th, that this and other items that we're considering will have to come out of before we would have to go to the rainy day fund or the designated fund?
Off the top of my head, I'm going to say 2 to 3 million. I haven't looked at that lately. That's in excess of the rainy day fund, which is currently at 6.5 million.
Right. But before it takes 5 votes to get in there, but
Right.
but we're talking will it pass or not. But this 455,000, if it passes, which is second reading, then it will be out of the remaining 2 to 3 million that you think that we have to operate on between now and June 30. And if we spend more than that 2 to 3 million before then, if your numbers are close, before June 30, we're going to be into the rainy day fund, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On top of that, on this fire truck, okay, it was said, I believe, we may not have to write the check. Do you know how the funding of this thing goes? Do you have to buy it now? I know that there's some discounts. Do you pay for it after June 30th, which is the next fiscal year? Do you know? And I know the chief's not here, but someone here knows that answer.
With the fire truck that we ordered earlier, there was a discount if we paid a portion now and the balance when it was delivered. I believe this is the same sort of arrangement.
So much down, so much to, and it takes a year? Is that what we've been told? Close to a year, 9 to 12 months for the...
That's what Chief Williams has told us,
to be...
the lead time to have it built.
Okay. So before we pay the balance, we would be in the next year's fiscal year, right?
Yes, but the bulk of it would come out of this year's.
Because later on tonight, we've got a $500,000 grant that will be going into the next fiscal year, from if I read this right. But it's a resolution that says we will fund it if we receive it. That's how that thing reads on the front end. You're going to sign the contract for the fire hall, assuming the $65,000 is approved. I'm voting for it. We got a fire hall under construction. We got a fire chief that said I don't have a fire engine to put in it without buying one. I know when we built David's swimming pool out there and spent millions, we put water in the swimming pool. We need a fire truck and a fire hall if we're going to build a fire hall, and obviously we are, because did we borrow $12 million 2 years ago? Out of that $12 million bond 2 years ago, part of that was for this fire hall. And does my memory serve me right?
Yes, sir.
Have we spent any of that 12 million per se?
Very small amount. We still have 11 million something.
That's very small.
A lot of it's for Hatton Track.
Yes, 6 million of that is for
Okay,
that.
but we still got extra 6 million. Do you mind, just to refresh this 64-year-old memory, next Tuesday night, the projects that we had 2 years ago on the table to fund from this 12 million, which we've not spent hardly anything, could you just remind me what those are? I know
Yes, sir.
one of them's a fire hall. I can't remember the rest of them. But there's 2-year-old projects out there, along with this particular project here, okay? Well, I'm sticking to my guns. If we're gonna build a fire hall, we need a fire truck. It's a public safety issue. And I'm gonna put public safety up above a lot of things in this town, okay? The public safety issues. And then what trickles down below it, I'll do the very best I can, subject to money. But I've been with it from the get-go. It's justified to me. I don't want to see a fire hall with it locked up with no employees in it and no fire truck in it. So I'm voting for a fire truck, okay? If this price is still good, okay? And we do have the money. Thank you.
Any other discussion, questions, comments?
Whatever happened about the leasing, the short-term leasing of a truck? I don't remember that there was ever really an answer.
Tommy Dale, Assistant Fire Chief.
Robert Ritchie, Assistant Fire Chief.
Dustin Dunn, Lieutenant, Chairman of the Apparatus Committee.
The leasing didn't turn out to be as good as it kind of looked like it did. If we were a volunteer fire department and couldn't raise the funds up front to purchase the PACE apparatus, spread it out over a period of years, pay the interest rates on it, it might be okay. But it's much cheaper, much wiser, better on the taxpayers' money if we buy it up front instead of leasing it.
What were the costs, though? I mean, I think that this council should probably see those at some point to be able to, speak from their own examination.
Let me get my readers out here.
Okay.
Okay, on option one, on $500,000, over 5 years, you're going to pay 3.28% interest on it. On option two, $500,000 over 7 years, you're going to pay 3.39%. On the first option, you're going to pay $88,000 in interest over the cost of the vehicle.
I'm not really understanding the interest with the leasing. I mean,
it's what you're paying to spread the payments out.
that sounds like a loan to me.
No, it's a lease, but they're going to charge you that percent of lease rate to spread the payments out. They're not going to let you have it without paying interest on it. It's like a loan. Truthfully, it's like a loan.
Okay, so that's just how they do the cost on that. But then they also provide the service and
No.
the service and
Service will be up to whoever receives the piece of equipment. Plus, at the end of that time frame, on the first option, you'll have a $120,000 buyout if you decide to buy that piece of equipment in addition to what you've already paid in.
What'd you say, what was the 7 year? That's what it was. What were the years?
On the 7 year, it's 3.39%,
Okay.
or $66,000, and then you have a $150,000 buyout at the end of it.
What was the other term?
3 years.
5 years.
What's the average lifespan of a truck like this?
Hopefully, with today's technology, we like to get somewhere around 13 to 18 years out of it. Years past, we used to try to get 20. I can tell you that our reserve pumper that's 20 years old, after we put it online this weekend, 12 hours later, it was down. We were down 2 pieces of apparatus over the weekend. So our 20-year-old reserve piece is not dependable.
Councilman Fennell, I thought
I'm
you
just-
said, I'm sorry,
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, over 7 years, you're spending, what, 66,000 interest?
Yes, sir.
All right, I mean, I'm assuming that's probably a lot more than you would spend in repairs.
It should be, yes, sir.
Yeah.
It should be.
Yeah.
But now, like I said, you're paying that, but you're also paying $150,000 if you decide to keep that piece of apparatus at the
No,
end of
that's
that.
what I'm saying, you wouldn't keep it, you'd probably go and get another one or something like that and lease it
But
again.
if the value holds if it holds its value like I'm being told of what used ones are bringing on the market, I mean, because you guys found a Pierce piece of equipment that was 8 years old, and I think you said it was like $450,000 for that used piece of equipment that's already had 8 years on it.
There again, it depends on what is on, what options or what was added to the piece of apparatus when it was built.
Well,
But yes, the better quality pieces of equipment
that-
do hold their value.
Let me ask you a little bit about the equipment. First of all, is when I got sworn into office, you know, I was under the assumption we was gonna build a fire hall, and if we have a fire hall, we're gonna have a fire engine. And I think even going back to budget, we made it clear that we was willing to buy a fire engine. It was just a matter of timing and for what we're gonna spend for a fire engine. You know, I've done a lot of research on fire engines, and you got commercial series and you got custom ones. Now, these 2 pages right here, are you more or less needing a commercial truck, or you want the custom one over here?
We tried the commercial. The Rescue One that we have now on the International chassis, that was a test bed, if you want to call it. We tried a commercial chassis. It has been a good piece of equipment, but it is not what we need in this city. It doesn't have the interior cab room. You take a firefighter that has pretty good sized muscles built up like some of our young guys are now, and you put the turnout gear and the air pack on them, you don't have the room. Plus, you can't get the big fire pump on those trucks that you can get on the commercial or the custom trucks. You're limited to about a 1250 pump on a commercial chassis, and you really need to get about a 1500.
I understand what you're saying. Let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
When you look at the codes right here, as far as the options on this truck, I know what standard is, but some of these other characteristics like IATS.
That's in addition to standard,
Okay, all right. And IPOS.
in place of standard.
Okay, all right. Excuse me, Paige.
So if you'll notice on that listing, it'll have minuses and then no minuses. That minus is where they deduct it, and then in place of standard is the next line that will be the actual charge.
And you know, Tommy, but I have talked to you considerably about this, and I have talked to one chief and probably 4 other firefighters that are up the command staff with Metro. And I know, and I've talked to some of the council people, I know that Metro has bought 23 Toyans.
Toying, yes, sir.
And now they're gonna end up with 30 when all this is said and done. But in their trucks, the cost I've been hearing about their trucks is anywhere from $250,000 to $350,000. Is that what you've been hearing also?
Not on the Toyings, no, sir.
We actually have a price on that Nashville truck. It actually came, we did a demo, and it was actually higher than this one. It's actually if you look under the minutes we gave you last month, on the Toying, that is the price of that Nashville engine.
Well, I think they've got some different engines out there other than just one. I think that when they come in on the commercial level, that they seen that it wasn't exactly what they was wanting. So the next trucks, they started adding things to it, and they might have come up with what you're saying. One other thing right here, the Supton right here, this is a new company that has been taken over or going in with Cumberland.
The dealership has changed.
It
The-
used to be a
com-
Spartan, right?
No. Sutphen is in Columbus, Ohio. It's a family-owned company, been in business over 100 years. Our 100-foot aerial platform is a Sutphen, and our 75-foot pumper ladder at Station 4 is a Sutphen. The dealership was Cumberland International up until right before the first of the year. It has now changed to another company as far as just the dealership goes. And it's here in Middle Tennessee.
Hey, I guess it's just a car dealer and me trying to save.
Kind of. I understand. I understand.
anyone else wishing to comment? Councilman Alexander, I think you should.
And Tommy, there's 3 council people that night a month ago. You might have been here too. Chief was here. Sean and myself. And we encouraged Chief to do the very best he could, and you guys as a team to go out there and find options. A great used one. Well, that didn't get very far.
Well, one of the things that we found out in that process, and we've known it, of course, I've dealt with fire equipment for many years, serviced it and have sold it. The problem with late model fire apparatus, if it is, say, 5 to 8 years old and somebody's got that piece of apparatus for sale, you better look really, really close at it because there's probably something wrong with it. Otherwise, they would keep it until it reaches the 13, 15, 18-year-old mark. So we're kind of leery of some of those really good-looking late model pieces of equipment. You know, as a used car dealer, you know what I'm talking about. You have to do your homework on them.
Vice Mayor Overton, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Tommy, as you know, and I appreciate what Elizabeth said earlier tonight about the need for that fire unit out there. You know that I've pushed probably as hard as anybody on this
Yes, sir.
council. When we went and bought the property, I called you. We went out there and met with the landowner and bought it. I think we should have had it gone 3 years ago. We should have had it built. Things have happened. We had to get a new chief, on and on. So we didn't do it. And I don't think there's nobody, and I'm just one person, I don't think nobody on this council is not saying we don't need a fire truck. Everybody understands we have to have a fire truck, okay? And when we was in budget with the mayor, and I know Councilman Fennell was there, and I don't think anybody else was in the fire department budget at that time, you know, we just asked a simple question: could we survive for a month or two if we got the personnel grant to hire the people? Could we survive for a month or two if it got built and we had to order us a truck? And we were told on a temporary basis that we could do that. Now we're told that no, there's no way possible that this could ever happen, that we'd have a unit that we could pull out of anywhere else to put out there if this firehouse opened. There's not one to be done. And that's what we were even told the other night. You can't do it.
I would not put much faith, if any, in our reserve piece to put out there. We did that at Station 4, and that truck cost us a ton of money to maintain and keep it up. It was down about as much as it was up till we got our new one.
Right.
That was not a very comfortable feeling.
But my point is, nobody on here does not want to buy a fire truck. And you know, we got a lot of stuff on our plate. You know, we was just wanting to get through February because we're waiting to see how much this road over here is going to cost us. It's going to be several $1 million.
I understand.
And we don't know what that figure is yet. Okay, we just don't know what it is yet. And but there's nobody on this council, especially myself, that doesn't want this station open yesterday.
Okay? We want the station.
I want it, and I fight
all.
for an ambulance in it. You know, we went to the county and they laughed us out, and they, you know, they didn't even want to help us build a big enough bay to put an ambulance in. We got to have an ambulance in it. We don't have any choice, guys. Okay, I live out there. Mr. Bennett, one of our neighbors out here, lives out there. We want an ambulance out there to protect us.
It's a long way out there.
We're both getting, you know, in our elder years, and we need something out there to protect us. So we got to have one. But what I'm saying is, you know, 3 or 4 of us up here voted the other night to wait till February or whatever to do this. It's not that we're against this fire truck. That's not what this is all about, okay? It's just about the timing of when we're going to order this truck and when we're going to get a new truck, okay? And it's not about whether we need one or don't. There's nobody on here that don't think we need a fire truck and a fire engine. And the next problem is going to be, guys, is if we don't get the SAFER grant, we're going to be up a creek. That's a lot of incurring money, a lot of revenue that we're going to incur. We just got through hiring. How many did we hire this past year? 20?
His fire department?
Yeah, how many did we hire?
10.
I think he said 17.
17 is what Chief told us. We had 17 new people we just put on our payroll. Okay, that's what he told us last week, I think.
And we just bought a rescue truck.
Yeah, and so my point is, I don't want anybody in the fire department don't think that we haven't spent a lot of money trying to get them where they need to be. We spent a lot of money with personnel. Just ordered a new rescue truck just a few months ago. And so we all want to get to where you guys want to be, okay? All of us does,
I
Tommy.
understand, but the longer you wait on buying a piece of apparatus, the more it's going to
tomorrow,
cost.
y'all would like to have the money tomorrow to build another station and have another engine. And we need that, Tommy, okay? I'm telling you, we need it, okay? And I'm not saying we don't, okay?
We do.
Hopefully, we got the property now where we're going to put it. And down the road, we can do that. But nobody wants public safety and to get where we need to be any more than I do, okay? It was just a timing issue, it's still a timing issue, but, you know, we gotta move on, so that's where we are right now.
Jimmy, you're exactly right. I mean, I stand with Jimmy because I too sat in budget and I thought we was on same game plan and I thought we was trying to follow it, and then all of a sudden it come out of, it feels like we kind of, or I feel like I've kind of been blindsided a little bit. You know, I'm one of the ones that led the charge on the rescue truck. And part of me, as the business person in me, is just, you know, I feel like, I felt like we need to crawl a little bit before we tried to walk, you know?
Well,
Let me-
I think if you consider looking at what the fire department is up against as far as the growth for this city, we cannot sit and wait for it to outpace us any further than it already has. We're behind the 8 ball, and you guys know it. I'm preaching to the choir, I know. But if we can't stop the folks coming here for the development that's already there, we have got to be prepared for them, and right now we are not.
And you know, what scares me is Hatton Track. That scares me. What scares me also is the Gallatin Police Department, because I know MTAS has made suggestions to the police department, and I know they're gonna come knocking out a door.
Yes, sir.
I'm a businessman, even back during the hard days of like 08, 09, and 010, I made sure I kept my employees paid. I made sure they was there. I didn't lay anybody off. So I look down the road a little bit, the employees we got, making sure that they're gonna have a job and they are gonna get paid. You know, that's important to me.
Councilman Alexander?
Yes, I'm still in a maze, I guess, for lack of a better word. We sitting up here debating whether to spend $455,000 for 35,000 people in the city of Gallatin. The reason why we've hired so many fire employees is because we've been so far behind. We've been so far behind. And we got to get caught up. It's just mind-boggling to me how we can just debate so hard on the $455,000 because of Haddon Track and because of this and because of that. But when it comes to Franklin House, we can come up with $800-some-thousand, not a word said. We need this fire truck. I've been supporting the fire truck ever since day one, gonna continue to support it. Because I think if we're gonna consider spending $800-some-thousand for 7 employees, surely to God, we can spend $455,000 for 35,000 people and lower the rates for everybody. We need a fire truck. I'm gonna vote for it. Been behind it 100%, gonna continue to be behind it. But I'm just sorry that you all have to go through all this rhetoric. You've done everything we asked you to do. I don't want to put no used fine in no brand new fire station, because if it's used and somebody that's getting rid of it, they're getting rid of it for a reason, because it ain't no count. Common sense. So, I mean, I'm ready to vote unless somebody else got something to say.
Councilman Mayberry indicated he wishes to
Yeah,
speak.
and Jimmy, you and Sean, y'all circle right back to my very first question. If staffing is dependent upon the SAFER grant, and equipping the fire hall is going to be dependent upon a bid of Hatton Track or the house thing over there along. If all of the funding and equipment of the city of the new fire station is subject to that, then do we need to let the contract start construction of it? So once you start construction of it, and it's very nice, Cassidy did a very nice job. I think the 65,000 that we're going to vote on item number 7 is to complete the cost of that thing over and above the bond, what we have, or some to that effect. We've been paying interest on this building, on this $6 million for 2 years. That we've been, or whatever, 2 or 3, whatever that amount is, that's appropriated to the fire hall. But if this council and the mayor, if the funding and the equipping of a fire hall is subject to what happens in January, February, Jimmy, or March, then Paige, I suggest you don't sign a contract
and let the bid. You know, I'm for building the fire hall. We do have the money. There's a year wait. If you order this thing, it's a year before the truck is to be delivered, which would be on or about the same time if the station itself should be complete, thereabout. So it could come together right well. So if we're going to let a contract to build a fire hall, which we've discussed for years, and borrowed the money to do so, then we need to staff it appropriately, and we need to put the equipment in there that is appropriate for it. But if we're not committed to that three legs of that of the project, the land, the equipment, and the personnel, then we just need to not do it. Hold up, which I'm not suggesting. But if you let that contract, I think we need to go ahead and make arrangements for the equipping and the staffing.
Councilwoman Love.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, first, I have to disclose that my son's a fireman at with the city, and I agree with what Jimmy said. I think everybody wants this. I agree with what Eddie says. I agree with what Sean says, but I mostly agree with what Councilman Alexander says and Eddie about this being a safety concern. Elizabeth has told us about, you know, the length of the time for a call from Station 1 here to get out that way. And I know that something could happen at any time. Like Sean, when we got on the council, we thought it was all a done deal, and we were just ready to it was all talked about. But I think that putting the city's safety is higher priority, and so I'm ready to vote for it too.
Anyone else have any comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and take a vote. This is second reading on ordinance number 01711-89. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Looks like it passes unanimously. Any abstentions? Okay, passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Item number 4 is second reading on ordinance number 01711-91, and Councilman Camp is recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance transferring funds in amount of $108,290.96 from the fire department salaries and benefits to building department salaries and benefits. So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilman Camp, second by Councilman Alexander. Is there any discussion? This is second reading on ordinance number 01711-91. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Does pass unanimously. Item number 5 is second reading on ordinance number 01711-92. Councilwoman Love.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance appropriating funds for completion of infrastructure improvements in faraway hills. I so move.
Okay, motion by Councilwoman Love, second by Councilman Fennell. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, this is second reading on ordinance number 01711-92. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. It does pass unanimously. Item 6 is second reading on ordinance number 01711-93. Vice Mayor Overton, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. This order is appropriated $17,046.01 from revenue received from insurance for damaged vehicles recovery for the police department. I so move.
Motion by Vice Mayor Overton, second by Councilwoman Love. Any discussion? Okay, this is second reading on ordinance number 01711-93. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It does pass unanimously. Item 7 is second reading on ordinance 01711-98, and Councilman Fennell is recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance appropriating $65,276.62 for the construction of Fire Station 5, and I so move.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilman Fennell, second by Vice Mayor Overton. Is there any discussion on this? Okay, I see no one indicating they wish to discuss. This is second reading on ordinance number 01711-98. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. It does pass unanimously. Item 8 is first reading on ordinance number 1801-2. Councilman Mayberry.
Yes, this is an ordinance awarding the bid and authorizing funds in a total amount of $1,861,000 from the Water and Sewer Reserves for water line replacements contract number 117, 2017. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Mayberry, second by Councilman Alexander. Is there any discussion? This is first reading of ordinance number 1801-2. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Passes unanimously. Item number 10, because remember we've already addressed item number 9, is first reading on ordinance number 01801-4, and Councilman Hayes.
It's an ordinance appropriating $61,000 for construction of pedestrian facilities along Volunteer State Community College at both Greensboro Village and Gap Boulevard. Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Councilman Hayes and then a second by Councilman Alexander. Is there any discussion?
I have one thing.
Okay.
Wasn't it talked about at our last meeting that the college was willing to pay for one of these and that we could wait on the other, if I remember correctly?
Who wants, I think their parts are, the part that they're willing to build isn't included in this.
That's not included in this.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one,
This is just two crosswalks on the
Yeah.
road.
Yeah, that's just two crosswalks. They're gonna do the other part of it.
They're going to do another part.
Clear it up, city engineer.
The $61,000 that you're appropriating is for the construction of the sidewalk that will be along Gap Boulevard and the public right-of-way. So the college is doing a series of other sidewalk projects, pedestrian projects that are on their campus and not in the public right-of-way. And then we're also taking some funds from our intersections fund that will do the pedestrian signalization at both of the intersections of Gap Boulevard and the college entrance goes to Greensboro. And Dr. Faulkner and one of his assistants, Will, are here too if you had questions for them and the schedule that they have.
maybe I was thinking that we had said that maybe one of these could be done now and one delayed.
Well, we discussed the
I don't know
possibility
if
of
they have
separating some
anything else.
projects, but
That's all the information that I have, that we would move forward with both of
yeah, the
the
council,
things.
I mean, y'all voted at the work session to move it forward as a comprehensive project.
I feel sure that we talked about that, though, about doing one now and maybe and doing another later just to save some money
I
because
think
of all
Buck
these
mentioned that there was there was the opportunity to do that, but I think, again, the council chose to move it forward as a comprehensive project.
And
do
this is
it all
just
done.
first reading, so we can find out or something, or you can find out, because it is just.
I'll go
first
back
reading.
and listen
Yeah.
again to the minutes, but that's what I understood too, that we were moving forward with all of it, so.
100% of the remaining cost of this total project was coming out of that fund account that we discovered a
Yes,
couple of
and
weeks
that
ago.
was
That does
estimated to
not-
be about 118,000.
Okay, because I knew it's more than 60, so you got
Correct.
about 118,000 you're taking out of an existing account that does not require any
Yes, sir.
readings for you. So you can take that, switch it to Dr. Faulkner's project, plus the 61,000, and that would be sufficient funds to complete both projects, both crosswalks.
That is correct.
It's an intersection fund, and I think
Right,
it
but it's money
benefits the
that we
whole
would've,
community.
that
Right.
was there, for other, whatever. And I may add, Dr. Faulkner, I've read with interest the amount of monies that the college, which was in the local newspaper, about the funds that, and economic prosperity that college has provided and provides this community. So thank you and your staff, and keep the money coming. We'll take it.
Anyone else wish to discuss? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote on first reading on ordinance number 01801-4. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. It does pass unanimously. Item 11 is Resolution R1712-66. Councilman Hayes.
Is this a resolution accepting public improvements by the City of Gallatin, Tennessee, St. Blaise Retreat, Section 1? Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilman Alexander. This is Resolution R1712-66. Anyone wishing to discuss? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, Resolution R1712-66 passes unanimously, and we'll move on to Resolution R1712-68.
Yeah,
Councilman Hayes.
This is a resolution accepting public improvements by the City of Gallatin, St. Blaise Retreat, Section 2. Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilman Fennell. Any discussion? This is Resolution R1712-68. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Councilman Hayes, you have the next several. I don't know if you want to.
Can I do 13, 14, 15 all at once, and then?
When you do them separately. Okay, so we'll start with Resolution R1712-7. I tried. R1712-74, Councilman Hayes.
Since she said no, we're gonna get her to do them then.
We'll boogie through them.
Okay.
They hadn't followed your advice in the past.
That's right. Why start now?
Okay, all right, so we're
They.
gonna, so we can't do, even though they're in the same section, can't do them all?
Just rock on.
Just go. You're wasting more time.
Resolution accepting public improvements by the City of Gallatin, Foxland Phase 7, Section 1. Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilman Alexander. Any discussion? This is R1712-74. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. It does pass unanimously. Item number 14 is Resolution R1712-72.
Don't repeat the resolution.
Councilman
I'm gonna go
Hayes.
quicker. All right, this is resolution accepting public improvements by the City of Gallatin, Foxland, Phase 7, Section 2. Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Vice Mayor Overton. Any discussion? I won't repeat the resolution number. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes unanimously. This is Resolution R1712-73. Councilman Hayes is
This
recognized.
is resolution accepting public improvements by the City of Gallatin, Foxland, Phase 7, Section 3. Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilman Fennell. Any discussion? Okay, it's Resolution R1712-73. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. It does pass unanimously. Resolution R1712-69.
This is a resolution accepting public improvements by the City of Gallatin, Foxland, Phase 9, Section 2. Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilman Alexander. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Resolution R1712-69 passes unanimously. Item 17 is Resolution R1712-70.
You repeated the resolution. Resolution accepting public improvements by the City of Gallatin, Tennessee, Foxland, Phase 9, Section 3. Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Vice Mayor Overton. Any discussion? All in,
Please explain what those improvements are. No, I'm kidding.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It passes unanimously. Item 18 is Resolution R1712-67.
Yeah, this is a resolution accepting public improvements by the City of Gallatin, Foxland, Phase 9, Section 4A. And did you want to know, Mr. Mayberry?
Oh, no.
All right. Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilman Alexander. Seeing no one indicating they wish to discuss, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? R1712-67 passes unanimously. Item 19 is Resolution R1712-71. Councilman Hayes, it's yours.
Resolution accepting public improvements by the City of Gallatin, Foxland, Phase 9, Section 4B. Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilman Fennell. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. And that does conclude, passes unanimously, that does conclude the Foxland Public Improvements section of the agenda. We move now to Resolution R1801-5. Councilwoman Love.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution to authorize Parks and Recreation Department to apply for a local park and recreation fund grant. I so move.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Love, a second by Councilman Alexander, which we do appreciate. I did speak with David Brown today, and we would rather that you all wait on this resolution until we actually come back to you with the proposed project that you are in agreement of. David, if I say anything wrong, please jump in and correct me. But we, you know, he's talked to several of you and heard your, you know, what you preferred and what you desired. I talked to him today that I'm kind of feeling like we need to use this grant application as an opportunity to move forward with our all-accessible facilities that we're talking about building with the help of some private donors. But we need to vet those things a little bit more. So with your permission, we'd like to bring it to the work session next week and discuss it with you.
That's fine.
would you?
I withdraw my motion.
And he withdraws his second. And I probably should have asked that at the first of the meeting, but also. Well, I think the grant application is in April, but but there has a lot of work that has to happen. And David said, if we get an indication from this council next week which project you're supportive of, then they can begin work on it. So it is delaying them a week. It is delaying them a week, but he said that they'd be okay with that. So make a note on that. And we are on item number 21, which is first reading on ordinance number 1801-1, and it's Councilman Alexander.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is the ordinance of the City of Gallatin, Sumner County, Tennessee, rezoning an 80.243 acre parcel, tax map 104, partial 093.00 from the agricultural residential district to the multi-residential and office district, and approving a preliminary master development plan for Lampert Farm, authorizing the revision to be indicated on the official zoning atlas, repealing conflicting orders, providing for servability, and providing for an effective date, and I so move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Alexander, second by Councilman Camp. Was that you? Mayberry. Okay, Mayberry. And that opens the floor for discussion.
Same thing on this. I think it'll come up, public hearing in 2 weeks? Correct? Okay. All right.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, you've got to get one of these interagency agreements also, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Because of all this, so really by the time it gets to all that, it got.
There is time, yeah. Anyone else? Okay, this is first reading on ordinance number 1801-1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Does pass unanimously. That concludes the regular agenda, and it brings us to other business. Is there any other business that this council would like to bring forward? Councilman Alexander?
Yes, just want to thank all the department heads, the council, the mayor, and all who supported me in the loss of my brother, Sammy. Come to find out Sean knew my brother before he knew me. So thank you for your prayers, and I appreciate your phone calls and coming by. It meant a lot to me, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other business from this council? Seeing none, we'll move on to public recognition on non-agenda related items. If there's anyone that would like to come forward and speak on non-agenda related items, now would be the time. Judge, the board wants to be popular this evening. I was being facetious.
No, he's trying to come to the podium. My oldest brother, Sandy, he used to live out there by Sean on that hill. But he's been nursing home for a long time.
Hit my little button there. My name is Joe DeVore, and I live at 1007 Hart Street here in Gallatin. First comment I'd like to make tonight is I would like to express my thank you to the many folks that live in our community that have asked me if I needed help or anything like that while I'm moving around our city. We have a wonderful city, and I appreciate all the thoughts and the good wishes of people that try to help me get around town. For somebody who's handicapped, that's a real special thought, and that's to be commended, and that's why we are the nicest city in the country. We also like to thank our staff people back here, especially those in the fire department who've made me one of those 70% of how much they have for calls getting around. The reason why I'm stepping up here tonight with this walker is the fact that the dog and I had a little problem the other night, and I found myself flat on my back. So, and a couple of neighbors came by and helped me up, so that was wonderful. And that's one thing that we have to share with everyone is a positive note about the city of Gallatin. It's a wonderful place to live, even if the mayor does live here. And
Mr. DeVore.
That's a left-handed compliment, madam. That's what the deal
It
is.
didn't feel like any kind of compliment to me.
Anyway, we want to thank many folks. Number one, we want to talk about this situation with our housing program. We do have a situation coming in with this wastewater stuff. If you have them close together, as some of these projections are made, they ain't going to fly because you're going to have too much water run off from each home. And that's something that we need to talk about. And the reason why I bring that to your attention tonight is because back in November, we had an opportunity to speak with some folks that are getting ready to put together a project in behind Craig's building over there, his office building there on Tulip Poplar. And they're going to put in they're looking at putting in a hotel, motel type deal with some other amenities there, little housing. We're looking at also some shops and so forth. And they're going to have it set up by which the water's going to stay on their property. And what they're looking at is using some cobblestone type operation in their design, which I think is great. It was great that Mr. John Puryear brought those folks to the Lions Club to discuss our situation with us. And I think that's great for them, and it's great for us to know who we're dealing with. And that's something very special we look forward to in the future. So we have to look at that. Another catch is going to be that our wastewater folks, Ms. Watson, is going to have her hands full because one of the things you're going to be looking at, as far as that's concerned, is how much it's going to cost. And I think that when you get ready to set up your fees and so forth, it should be tied in with your property tax. It should be the owner of the property should be held accountable for that. It should not be ever go into the fund for utilities, because you have no recourse. If I got a bill and I was leasing property from somebody and that was on it, I wouldn't pay it. And the reason why is because what's your recourse? You have no recourse. You need to go ahead and have it set up by which it's tied in with your property tax, so if somebody doesn't want to pay, we're going to take a property and sell it. And another thought, Mr. Eddie, you were in charge of some property here lately that had had a house that had to be torn down. When that house goes down, Mr. Eddie, guess what happens? Your water coming off that house is going to stop. So the water stays on that property. So therefore, your bill would be a lot less for that property. So that's something to think about too. So folks, I thank you very much for your time. Y'all have oh, by the way, the pool, old folks pool slots, we discussed that, we've done it. We set up for the thing to begin with, so that $500,000 they're going to a pool for the old fat man and his buddies. So I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, anyone else wishing to speak under public comment on non-agenda related items? Seeing no one, we will consider it closed, and I'll be looking for one more motion.
Oh, motion. I'm sorry.
Somebody say motion to adjourn. Thank you by Councilman Alexander, second by Councilman Mayberry. All in favor say aye. Okay, we are adjourned. I hope everyone has a lovely evening. Drive safe going home. We'll look forward to seeing you back here soon. Have a good night.